Hello, music technology people. We are talking about intervals, and we yesterday introduced the idea of major and minor intervals. And so an interval is the distance between any two notes. There are special names for the interval of one half step and one whole step, half step and whole step, which would normally be called a minor second and a major second if we're doing just intervals. But since steps in general, half and whole, are how we build scales, they get special names. But every interval has a name. And so we're going to go over this in C major and talk about major and minor intervals, do some more stuff like yesterday. Here we go. So we're going to start with the treble clef, like we always do. And today we're going to do the C major scale so you can really see it. You should know that the C major scale contains no sharps and no flats, but we're going to do whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step anyway, because we're reviewing. So we're going to start on middle C, which is on the first ledger line below the staff. We go up a whole step, skip the black key, we land on D. We go up a whole step, we skip the black key, we land on E. We go up a half step, there's no note between E and F, so a half step to F. We go up a whole step to G, skip the black key. We go up a whole step to A, skip the black key. I'll play it here. We go up a whole step to B, skip the black key. And then it's a half step from B to C. So there's our C major scale. And one thing to remember, all the notes of the major scale are major intervals except for the fourth and the fifth. And so let's go into this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So the way intervals work from any given note over the course of an octave. There are 4 types of intervals. An interval can be major, it can be minor. I lied, there's 5. So major and minor is for seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. Then octaves and fourths and fifths are either perfect, augmented, or diminished. So I'm going to write all these words down here. So for scale degree 2, 3, 6, and 7, they are either major, or minor. And in the major scale, they're all major. Then 4, 5, and 1, which is also the octave, are either perfect or augmented, or diminished. I can't write. Diminished. Right. So those are all the kinds of intervals. So let's start with the perfect intervals. A perfect octave is called a perfect octave because you multiply the frequency by 2. And the ratio of the frequencies of those sounds is 2 to 1. It is a perfect ratio because the math checks out. From any note up a perfect fourth, that's, I think, a 3 to 2 ratio in the frequencies. Whole numbers works out perfect, spectacular. Perfect fifth is like a 4 to 3 ratio. It's always one odd number and one whole number because math. So those intervals are perfect. Then seconds and thirds and sixths and sevenths are either major or minor depending on whether they're further away from the starting note or closer. So let's look at this. In a major scale, the second note is a major second away. We also call that a whole step. But if I were to move up a half step, that would be a minor second. So a minor second is the same thing as a half step, and a major second is the same thing as a whole step. So far that should make sense. From C to E is what we call a major third, because it is made up of 2 whole steps, or 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. That is a major third. The third note, C major, there. If I were to lower this and make it flat, that is now a minor third. And that's the same way that a major chord becomes a minor chord, right? The note that is a third away is either major, when it is 2 whole steps, or minor, when it's a whole step plus a half step. Major third, minor third. Then we got a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. We'll come back to that. Sixths. From C to A in this case, or the first note to the sixth note of the scale in a major scale is a major sixth, right? That would be whole step, half step, whole step to get there. If I lower this by a half step, it becomes a minor sixth, and it sounds awesome. right? And then we get chords that go like this. That is the minor 6 right there. You hear that note all the time in pop music and rock music. People love that note. Same thing with sevenths. So, from the first note of the scale to the seventh note of the scale is a major seventh away, and we know that 7 really wants to go up to 1. But there's our major seventh. If I lower the 7th note of the scale a half step to this black key, it is now a minor 7th. So, that should make sense. Seconds and thirds can either be major or minor. 6ths and 7ths can either be major or minor. 4th and 5th and unison / octave are perfect. Now, here's the thing. Here's my perfect 4th. 1 to 4. This is C to F. If I raise this up a half step, that is not a major or a minor 4th. Because a 4th was perfect, it is now called an augmented 4th. The word augment means to add to. So if we have a perfect 4th, and then we raise it up, it becomes an augmented 4th. And that is the most dissonant interval there is. It is 3 whole steps. Whole step, whole step, whole step. That's the one that's really, really unpleasant, / we actually now think sounds really good. Anyway, that is the augmented 4th. Same thing here. Here is the perfect 5th, C to G, 1 to 5. If I take this G and I lower it down a half step, it becomes a diminished 5th. So just like notes can be called sharp or flat depending on context, this black key right here in the key of C major, I don't know if you can see my hands, right, there we go, right, can either be called an augmented 4th or a diminished 5th. If I'm on 5 and I come down, it's a diminished. To diminish means to make something less. So, that's the basic theory behind intervals, and then beyond the octave, you just add an octave to everything. So those are all the possible intervals. I'm going to write out a bunch of intervals, and you are going to figure out how far apart they are. You can count half steps, or you can build the major scale to figure out how they would fall on the major scale. So I'm going to do an example here. So this is the example. All right, so if I'm on F, and I go to D. So F to D. So this is the example. All right, what kind of interval is it from F to D? Well, first we got to count how many notes. F, G, A, B, C, D. You always count the one you start on because the octave and the unison count as one. So F, G, A, B, C, D. All right, it's a 6th. Now, we don't know if it's major or minor yet. So there's 2 ways. We could count all the half steps up. There's charts online. I'll post one with this assignment. That gets tedious. The other way you do it is you think about the major scale starting on F. And if by now you've done enough major scales, the F major scale, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, would go F to G to A to B flat to C to D. So D is in the F major scale, and since it's in the major scale, all the intervals in the major scale are major intervals. So that makes that a major 6th. So this would be a major 6th, right? You could also go, okay, it's whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So it's 4 whole steps plus a half step, and then you look on a chart and you count it, and you figure it out that that's a major 6th. That's a little bit more tedious, but maybe that's more comfortable. Great. Another example. And we're going to do one coming down the other way. If I'm on E flat, and I go down to, say, C. Intervals always, their major or minorness has to do with the lower note, right? So, if I'm on E flat, and actually I'm on this E flat, and I'm going to go down to C, well, a half step would be a minor second, a whole step would be a major second, and then another half step would make that a minor 3rd. Or if I start on C and go up, that is a minor 3rd, because from C, E natural would be a major 3rd, so E flat would be a minor 3rd. So intervals, major or minorness, is easier to figure out starting on the bottom note, even if the bottom note comes second. So this is a minor 3rd. Great, 6th. All right, so here's your assignment. I'm going to do some treble clef because treble clef is way more common. So here's number 1. We're going to go from A to C. I want to know what the interval is for that. For number 2, we're going to go from G to D. For number 3, we're going to go from F to E flat. For number 4, we're going to go from E to C sharp. And for number 5, we're going to go D to F. Great. So I want to know what those different intervals names are. Major or minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's one there that's perfect, so perfect fourths and perfect fifths are an option. None of those are augmented and diminished because I'm being generous because it's Juneteenth. Have fun out there today. I will see you on Monday. Stay safe. Good weekend. Bye.